Into hour number 2 of the program, the NFL Draft gets underway tomorrow night. Joining us now, a man who has been involved with quite a few NFL drafts, but this time he's doing it from the other side of things, the media side of things, as he's working for Fox Sports Radio and CBS this weekend. He is the former general manager of the Minnesota Vikings. He is Rick Spielman, and he's with us now here on GCR. Rick, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, sir. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
No, thanks for having me on. It'll be interesting, but I'm also very excited about to see this from the other end. And I know whatever I say, I'm not going to get held accountable for or ripped in the media about what I say.
Okay, hang on a second. You say that now, but it could be shared as a tweet forever. Like, this is, like, there are a lot of people who said a lot of things about Lamar Jackson that fateful night 4 years ago, and they have not been forgotten, despite the fact that they didn't work for NFL teams. Hey, Rick, before I get into the draft, if I could, Michael Pierce is a buddy of ours. He's one of the best humans that I've ever gotten to know with the Baltimore Ravens. And, I know things didn't go exactly as planned after you guys signed Michael Pierce, but what are the Ravens getting back? How similar is Michael Pierce to the guy that we saw a couple years ago?
Not only Michael Pierce is a very good football player, and when he was healthy for us, he was pretty dominant in what we needed in that defensive front. And I believe our first game against Cincinnati, he ended up with 2 sacks. He was a better pass rusher than we anticipated. I thought our defensive line coach, Andre Patterson, did a great job. And not only is he a good football player, but he was even a better person off the field. So, unfortunately, injuries catch up with some players at times. But if he's healthy, I think he's a very good football player that'll definitely help them up the Baltimore Ravens on their D-line next year.
Yeah, we're excited to have him back because he really is just an incredible human being, man. One of my favorite people we've ever had here. Rick, as far as the draft is concerned, what do you think is maybe the storyline going into the first round that we're not talking about enough? And I know that almost seems impossible because we're talking about everything.
What can you not be talking about in the first round? I think the most interesting thing that I've been talking about, and I'm doing a lot on TikTok right now. So if you want to see some of the things that I have said about these first-round players, but what Jacksonville does, because they can go any different direction. There's not a blue chipper like a Trevor Lawrence or a quarterback that's a franchise-type quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they go. And I think with them, I believe I saw it this morning, signing an extension with Cam Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that may sway them to go to the defensive side of the ball. And the 2 best defensive players, in my opinion, are Hutchinson and a guy that has tremendous upside, but maybe not as polished as Hutchinson is Trayvon Walker. So I think it'll come down to one of those 2 players. And I think with Trent Baalke's history and knowing Trent, that he may go with maybe the better overall athlete with the bigger upside.
By the way, Rick is very easy to find on TikTok because it's just Rick Spielman. There's no kind of funky handle there. And I imagine if we had asked you...
I never was on social media before.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If we asked you 3 years ago what you'd be doing in 2022, you definitely thought doing draft videos on TikTok was exactly...
I asked my kids to follow me on TikTok, and they refused to because they said they don't do TikTok. And I says, well, what other things are out there? Like Instagram and Facebook and all this other stuff. So I said, Dad's going to do TikTok then.
That's cool. Look, man, I have not gone into the TikTok world, but I know you are ahead of me. I am the dinosaur in this conversation because it is where the world is at this point.
It's incredible where TikTok is right now.
Rick, I wanted to ask you about a couple of players that with the Ravens sitting at 14 that I think could be factors. And the biggest one to me, the guy that I'm just in love with, I'm enamored with this player in the idea that he could truly be special, but it's at a position that we don't treat as a premium, and that's Jordan Davis, the defensive lineman from Georgia. I just look at him and say he's not like other human beings. Haloti Ngata was one of the most massive human beings I've ever seen in my life. Jordan Davis is bigger than him. And our questions about him and the number of snaps he played, it's one of the most athletic combine performances we've ever seen. Why isn't Jordan Davis talked about more like a top 10 pick because of those things? And is it just a positional thing? Would you be okay using a 14th pick on a player like that?
I think that's what everybody's talking about in their draft rooms right now. I mean, it was, I don't know if this is the right term, inhuman what he performed at the combine. There's no one that ever ran that fast at that size. I know we've had some great size guys, Linville Joseph,
Yeah.
Pat Williams, Kevin Williams, and those guys definitely do make a difference up front. But I don't know if it's because the addition of Michael Pierce, and I believe then they signed Campbell back
Yeah,
as
Calais
well.
Campbell, yep.
So are they trying to see when you're looking at that draft board and how it's stacked, and the history on Davis is, and if you watch him, he can be a massive human being versus the run. And there are a couple clips that I saw that he has such great range. So a guy that size that can get outside and make plays outside the numbers, especially on some stretch zones and some sweeps and tosses that, and he's out there and making tackles. The biggest knock on him is the pass rush. And he wasn't a great pass rusher in college. He came out in nickel. I know the teams probably had talked to the Georgia staff about why he was not in on pass rusher situations. But if you look at their defensive line and their rotation, they're all NFL players.
Yes.
So they had, and Trayvon Walker, by the way, when I broke him down, he had, I believe, 6 sacks, but all those sacks came when he was lined up inside over the guard, and utilizing him in some schemes, some games, or just having him physically and athletically beat the guard that was in front of him. So I don't know why that rotation was. I think it'll come down to, does a defensive line coach or a coaching staff believe that they can make him a better pass rusher and make him a 3-down player? Because it's hard to take a guy, even though he is off the charts size-wise, off the charts athletic-wise, can they make him a 3-down player or not? And if he can't be, then that's hard to take you out of top 10. It's only going to be a 2-down lineman.
I get that. I completely get that. Boy, man, it's just hard to look at that and not think, give me that human being. Like, give me that monster of a human. You mentioned the 2 guys at the top. Are there how many more, I guess, because it's not, the Ravens aren't going to have a shot at either of those 2 guys, Hutchinson or Walker. But how many more impact edge rushers are there on day 1 of the draft? How many more guys are there that, like, at 14, you could find yourself a true step on the field from week 1 of this season impact edge rusher?
I think that, in my opinion, Baltimore is going to look at potentially corner, but I don't think Stingley or Sauce Gardner will be there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think McDuffie, although he's a very good football player, fits from a schematic standpoint, in my opinion. The 2 edge rushers that they may be looking at are Jermaine Johnson, who actually is an Eden Prairie kid that grew up with my kids, and he's been in my living room 100 times.
Wow.
So I know him inside and out. And George Karlaftis from Purdue, because I know Baltimore has always relied on pass rush, and that's what made their defenses so great. And I know Bowser's coming off an Achilles. Owe had there's another freak athlete that didn't have a lot of production in college, but they did a phenomenal job, and I think he's going to be one of the premier pass rushers, but I don't think they have a lot of depth behind that. And if you get injuries, you have to rush the passer in this league the way offenses have evolved. The other area I think that would be interesting is the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And do they look at that? Do they look at a Pennington? Do they look at a Linderbaum, who a lot of people have talked about maybe being one of the best center prospects that have come out in the draft in a while. So, but I think if edge rusher is there and they need depth there, and Bowser coming off an Achilles, I think maybe they could lean to one of those 2 guys.
Is Linderbaum someone you can take with you saw that somebody, I think the NFL's advanced stats people said he's one of their can't miss prospects. Can you take him with the 14th pick in the draft?
I think he'll come into the conversation. I think that you'll make that comparison into what he does. Do they see him as a day 1 starter when he walks in the door? And, does a Makari, then can he move to one of the guard spots? Because when Bozeman left, I believe he got signed by the Carolina Panthers. So you have to take care of that offensive line too. But also you got to look at the depth. What center is left behind Linderbaum? And I don't know if there's another center that's equal in ability that they think can come in and start right away if they pass on a Linderbaum. So, but again, it's the center position.
Right.
So I think you really have to hone in on the toughest positions to find. Although I think it's a pretty deep class in pass rushers, and with all those fifth or five fourth-round picks and three or two third-round picks, they can potentially utilize those picks to move up and down in the draft very easily. And maybe they use some of those to maybe go up and get one of those corners.
Just another minute or two here with Rick Spielman as he's getting ready for the NFL Draft, Fox Sports Radio, CBS, and on TikTok, Rick Spielman. Rick, if I could, the Lamar Jackson situation obviously is quite complicated here in Baltimore. We don't know what to make of it because it just feels like it should be understood. You got a quarterback, you got to pay him a bunch of money. That's the way that it works. What do you make of what's going on with Lamar Jackson maybe not wanting to do a deal right now, which it's just weird to me, a guy that wouldn't want more money to play the game of football? And do you fear, if you were the Ravens, would you have any fear at all about his long-term future in Baltimore?
No, I think it makes it a little bit more difficult because I still believe doesn't have a representative or he doesn't have an agent. So you're dealing directly with a player, and you don't know, and I don't know personally who that player is getting advice from, even though he doesn't have an official agent. So I think the last time I remember a player was Bobby Wagner, who didn't have an agent, but Seattle was able to figure out a deal. He's been very patient, Lamar has, and then you've seen all these contracts come in on these quarterbacks and where that money is going. So Baltimore, if they truly believe he is their franchise guy and he is going to take them to the Super Bowl and be their guy for the next 10 years, God forbid he stays healthy, or that he does stay healthy, then they're going to have to figure out a way to get get a deal done. But it is very difficult when you're not dealing with an agent as well.
Do you have any thought about whether or not the quarterback thing is nuts? I mean, it's insane, and I know the salary cap is going to go up again, but now the wide receiver contracts are ballooning. You, of course, know a thing or two about finding wide receivers, Rick. What do you make of the quarterbacks? Can this keep going the way that it's going? At some point, does this bubble have to burst simply because there's just not enough money to go around?
I think teams have to, they want a franchise quarterback. And if you do land on one, a Mahomes, a Josh Allen, you can see what a difference it makes, especially when you get into playoff football. Because, Matthew Stafford's a perfect example. He was with Detroit, loved Detroit. Detroit loved him. But when he got with the first year he got with the Rams, a change of scenery and maybe a more talented team than he was playing with in Detroit, he ended up winning the Super Bowl. So every team, especially the way the NFL has evolved over the last couple of years, everybody's trying to find that franchise quarterback. And when you do find him, it's hard to replace a guy like that. The question I have on Lamar, who I think is a phenomenal talent, is, and if I was in their shoes, I'm asking myself, because he's such a great athlete, and not only does he make plays with his arm, he is a legit threat with his feet, and defenses have to account for that. At some point, as he gets older, is he still going to be able to use his legs to make the type of plays he's making now? And, we had a great game in Baltimore last year. We ended up losing it in overtime. But I know how difficult it is to defend a quarterback like Lamar Jackson and how difficult that would be to replace him. So it'll be interesting to see, but I can't imagine them not getting something done with him. And I can't imagine Lamar not wanting to get something done before his contract expires because of the risk he's taken from an injury standpoint.
If I could, just the last one, Rick, there was a report from Mike Silver that teams are balking at trading for Baker Mayfield almost because they want to penalize the Browns for the contract that they gave for Deshaun Watson.
There's a lot of that's I don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
That's the media speculation.
So let me, if I could, do you feel like teams are going to try to fight the idea of more of these fully guaranteed contracts, or is the toothpaste now out of the tube and this is just what it is? There's nothing you can do now that somebody got one. that's going to be what all these other quarterbacks demand moving forward.
Well, I know that is what the agents are definitely going to want, and they're going to look at the Deshaun Watson deal, not questioning what he is on the field, but all the other things that have come with him, and still giving him that money and that type of contract. And from an agent perspective, if Deshaun Watson got guaranteed, fully guaranteed contract, and he had the off-field issues coming with him, and my guy is clean, and my guy is one of the premier quarterbacks in the league, why can't I get that as well? So it may be more difficult to sign, especially that position, without fully guaranteed contracts or close to fully guaranteed contracts.
And I think that's the reality of the way the world works, right? Like, they got the leverage. It's just that what do? You got to have a quarterback, don't you?
Yeah, you can fight it all you want,
Yeah.
but in the end, the market will kind of dictate what type of contracts that you have to end up doing to keep guys or to sign guys.
Rick Spielman, of course, on TikTok, Rick Spielman, Fox Sports Radio, and CBS this weekend. Rick, enjoy this side of the world. I have no doubt that you'll be making fun of all of us dummies afterwards and saying, this is easy. This is, you guys, this is simple. Appreciate you taking.
I don't know if it's easy, but you can just get up there and give your opinion and see what happens.
No doubt. Appreciate you taking the time for us this morning. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you for doing it. We'd love to chat again.
Okay, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Rick Spielman checking in with us, the former Vikings GM who's going to be part of draft coverage for FSR and CBS this weekend.